Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. A movie that was filmed in New Jersey and stars and was written by a New Jersey resident is in movie theaters across the country and available on your streaming services right now. We get details now from the lovely and talented Siobhan Fallon Hogan, who wrote, produced, and stars in Rushed. Thanks so much for agreeing to talk to us today. This is an exciting weekend for you. Tell us about this project. I know we're used to seeing you in movies, but you've produced this, you've written it. How long did it take to when you started working on this to now this point where you're getting it into theaters?
We started filming 2 years ago this September, and I wrote it a year before that. So it's been 3 years. So my sister Mary said to me, Siobhan, Friday, the 27th, it comes out in 3 days. And she said, this is like having a baby. I said, this is like having quintuplets.
Yeah, no, I get it. I can't imagine what you've been through the last 3 years getting it to this point. Tell us about the movie Rushed.
Rushed is a story of a mom from upstate New York who has 4 kids. She never wanted to be in the limelight. She never wanted anything other than that very noble experience that stay-at-home moms do, which is raise your kids. She's an Irish Catholic. She raises them faithfully. She's normal, though. I mean, my kind of normal. She says her rosary in the morning. She swears her head off making the sandwiches. She gets up a little late. She's like, my God, we're late, kids. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. And then they get in the car. She said to the girls, lower your skirts. You look like hookers. She's funny. They're funny. The first part of the movie's funny. Then the son goes off to college. Well, he's gone off to college. And she harasses him. She's a real helicopter mom. And she says to the kids in the minivan, you know, in life, you have about 2 minutes with your kids before when you're driving them to school, depending on how close you live to the school. If you're dysfunctional like me, you drove your kids 2.5 blocks to get them there on time. And you've got that time in the minivan to teach them everything about life. Or she takes the time to call her son in college and kind of harass him, saying, are you up? Are you learning that pledge for the fraternity when you're pledging the fraternity? And the kids are like, Mom, leave him alone. Anyway, there's a huge turn in the movie. It's a thriller. And something bad happens. And the mom tries to take the right path. And she tries to do the right thing by her son and other boys who've had trouble in fraternities. But she doesn't have a lot of cooperation. So she takes the law into her own hands. This is when it becomes a revenge thriller. So the movie is this crazy roller coaster ride of funny, tragic, thriller, revenge. It's got all the elements. And thankfully, and I'm just so grateful, the reviews are coming in and reviewers are loving it. And I just am over the moon about it.
And they're loving you. And this, I've heard this said before, if you want a great role, write it yourself.
Apparently.
You've been in so many movies. Everybody knows you. You've been in so many movies, huge blockbuster movies like Men in Black, like Forrest Gump. But you are the vehicle of this movie, not only writing and producing it, you're the star of this movie and getting.
And I called in all the troops when I wrote it of my friends over the years. And I believe what goes around comes around. You treat people the way you want to be treated. When you're in a working situation, I created the working situation when we shot this the way I like to be treated on a set. So I immediately called up Robert Patrick, my good friend from over the years, who you know from The Terminator, Walk the Line, many, many movies. He plays my husband in the movie. My husband in real life is a real guy's guy, plays New York rugby. He now coaches youth rugby. So I said, who could play this part? Robert Patrick in this movie, when you see it, hits it out of the ballpark. He is fabulous. Jake Weary, who's completely taken off in Animal Kingdom. I met him when he was 19 years old. I always kept everybody's numbers that I loved. Called him up. These two guys get very hefty paychecks for what they do. I called him up. I go, I have a script. Doing an independent. Our budget is about $5.50. They said, let us read it. And they were both in. And I sent the movie to Lars von Trier because I've done 3 films in Denmark with Lars von Trier. I just did The House That Jack Built with Matt Dillon. I did Dogville with Nicole Kidman, Lauren Bacall, and I did Dancer in the Dark with Bjork. I sent it to Lars and his producers read it and they said, we want to co-produce. So it was like all these years of working, raising my kids are in it. My my house was the fraternity house. So when you see the house in the movie, you see Jake Weary at the top of the balcony and the pledges below. That's my house. And my kids came home from college and they're like, what is this? And I said, well, I created the fraternity. And they're like, it looks ridiculous. So the kids helped me.
And this is in New Jersey. You filmed the whole
thing. This is in New Jersey. And then the last 2 days, we went up to Casanova, New York, where I'm from, to get the foliage. So you're going to see shots in this. And this is when we sold it. They said, is this a $7 million movie? I mean, this is nowhere near that and nowhere near $1 million. But my cinematographer, Matthias Schubert, and our director, Vibeke Musaya, and my editor, Sabina Miliani, are geniuses. And I've worked with them. I worked with Matthias. He's like, all right, I'm willing to make no money for 4 weeks. Vibeke Musaya is Danish. They recommended her. She's fabulous. Sabina Miliani, we were driving up to Syracuse. Vibeke said, 2 days to go on the shoot. I never thought about post-production. I never really had to do that much. Right. Siobhan, I can't believe we have an A-list movie and we don't have an A-list editor. I was like, wait one darn second. Let me think about this. I know an A-list editor, Sabina Miliani. I've never met her in person, but I did a movie with Johnny Depp called The Professor, and she liked my part because I was like a kook, the dean of the college's assistant, and I would always like fall in the bushes and drink too much, and I was like a disaster. So she'd call me from France, and she'd go, Siobhan, I'm editing today, and I'm in such a good mood because you're a crazy woman. So I called her up and I said, we're driving up. We have 2 days to go. Would you edit this? She said, let me read it, but I can't do it for many months. She calls me the next morning in Casanova. I am in. I will postpone my documentary. So she did a fabulous job. So basically, this is a culmination of everybody in my life coming together to do this movie, Rushed. And on Friday, I said to myself, what am I going to do at this premiere? Because it's in theaters all over the country and on video on demand, Apple, iTunes, Amazon, however people do that. And I know you cover New Jersey, New York. So it's going to be at the Atrium in Staten Island on Arthur Kill Road. It's going to be in Atlantic Highlands at the newly reopened Atlantic Movie House. It's going to be at Count Basie Cinemas. It's going to be all over the place. But if it's not, you can watch video on demand. So I said,
you're a promoter too.
Are you like that?
You know where it's airing?
Listen, I'm not just a promoter. You know why I know it's airing? Because our distributor distributed to the major markets. I said, I want it more than the major markets. Can I be the salesperson? For the last month, I've sat in a chair and been like, hi, I'm Siobhan Fallon Hogan. I'm doing this movie. Robert Hedrick, Dick Berry. Do you want to see the trailer? Do you want to see it? I have personally booked 40 theaters, 3 in Florida, Melbourne, Vero. I can tell you, Roswell, Georgia, South Dakota, 3 in Arizona, Coolidge in Boston, Rhode Island. It's crazy. I mean, I put my own posters at Junior's Burgers in Red Bank. The guy goes, what are you doing? I go,
this is a big deal for you. This is a really big deal.
Yeah.
I do hope it goes well. Because the show is called Jersey Matters, what's it like filming in New Jersey and shooting a movie in New Jersey?
I am a transplant from upstate New York. I'm a hick. My husband brought me to Monmouth County. I cannot say enough about the people. When I put on Facebook that I barely know how to use, hi, everyone, I'm going to shoot a movie. Does anybody have any rooms they can rent for crew? When I tell you friends and friends of friends who I didn't even know, we're like the Alderodi family. We have 3 rooms. How much do you want a room? Nothing. Not kidding. For food, we had a caterer, right? But the crew gets very hungry at night. We had a list that people had to sign up for. Can I bring lasagna? Can I bring chocolate chip cookies? What can I do? They opened their homes. Val's Tavern in Rumson, the Stone Church in Middletown. Everybody helped us. It was like unbelievable.
I don't think it is unbelievable. And let me tell you why. I think this is your reputation, not only locally, but in movies over the years, that everybody was willing to step up and help you because it was you. That doesn't mean that doesn't happen to everybody. I
wouldn't going to say it's because of my husband too. My husband has been very charitable, much more charitable than me. He huge help with lunch break, did their galas, always was giving. He does the youth rugby program. He's like the mayor. He comes back from communion in church like this. Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? I'm like, Peter, it's communion. You can't be shaking people's hands. But yes, my father and mother were the best. And, a lot of actors, things go to their heads. And let me tell you something. If you thought for 1 second that you were somebody, that my family cut you right down to size, like, hey, listen, you phony, cut the crap. I mean, I went to Catholic U and I got training in acting, and listen to my accent. It's ridiculous. And my sisters would be like, you're talking with a phony accent. I'm like, listen, just because your lawyer's going to say, me, your honor, man, please the court, doesn't mean that my accent, that I walk into an audition and they say, where are you from? But the truth is, when I first started out, I taught English as a second language, and I had Hispanic students, and I got down to the end for the Carol Burnett show. And I said, everyone, I just want to let you know, mañana, yo tango, I could only speak half Spanish. The end, fini, Carol Burnett. And one of my students, Stella, teacher, who is Carol Burnett? And I thought to myself, I'm a jerk. Who cares? They don't even, when it's all over, when our life is all over, no one cares who we got to work with or who they are. I love Carol Burnett, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying this is my job, which I love. And people have other jobs that are much more important and much more significant. And when I run a movie and I'm on a set and I'm standing on line and the prop guy's ahead of me, I don't say, excuse me, I'm talent, which happens on a lot of movies. I say, you're working just as hard as I am. We are equal across the board. This is a group effort, and that's the way I ran the show.
And that's why everybody's helping you now. Before we end, let's one more time talk about the it's called Rushed. It's going to be out this weekend, and talk about one more time where you can see it.
So you can go on Instagram to @RushedMovie. You can go to Facebook, Rushed Movie. You'll find out. Locally, it will be at Count Basie Cinemas in Red Bank, New Jersey, at Atlantic Movie House in Atlantic Highlands. It will be in Staten Island at Othakil Avenue at the Atrium. It will be in New York City, in Brooklyn, at the Kent Theater, on Long Island, the Malvern Cinemas. It'll be in Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, all over the place, Cleveland. I called Cleveland and I said, they're like, well, why should we bump a Disney movie for this? I said, hang on 1 second. Let me make a call. I called Robert Patrick. I go, Robert, doesn't your mother live in Cleveland? He's like, yeah. I go, Robert Patrick's mother lives in Cleveland. I was working the phones. So it's going to be all over the place. But if you can't find it in your city or town, then you just watch it on demand. And if you know how to do that, you're a better person than me.
Well, I wish you the greatest success with this. I know it's a labor of love for you. I know it's a big deal, and man, would I love to see you get some of the big nominations on this.
Thank you so much. Oh, and people can go to filmthreat.com. We got our first great review. Apparently, that's a very big deal, that site. And I'm just so happy and so grateful. And I hope that I can be mature enough to sit in my seat on Friday at the premiere and not do a cartwheel, but I realize I can't do cartwheels anymore. So maybe I will be able to sit there.
Well, it'd be fun to watch you try.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. You've been wonderful. It's great to have you as a neighbor, and great luck with the movie.
Thank you. And God bless New Jersey. I love New Jersey. And I thank New Jersey for everything. And I hope everybody will get out there and support Rushed.
Actress and producer Siobhan Fallon Hogan. By the way, Rushed, again, is in theaters right now and available on streaming services. Still to come on Jersey Matters, why more movies like Rushed are going to be filmed in New Jersey in the near future. Find out why next.